Hello, what's up? This is Antoine with another episode of Out and Up. Today, you know I always say it at the beginning of the show, we're blessed to have another awesome guest, someone, and I'll explain later, that goes way back in my history growing up pertaining to sports. But I'm like every show, I'm gonna go ahead and let him introduce himself.
What's going on? This is Fred Branks, football coach, actually football and wrestling coach at Northwestern High School in Rock Hill, South Carolina. So how you guys doing?
Thank you, Fred, for joining us today. So we're gonna ask Fred first. Where are you originally from, Fred?
Originally born and raised Paterson, New Jersey. Yeah.
So anyone that knows me, y'all know that was also where I was born and raised. So it's awesome to have Fred join us today. So we're gonna get right into the questions. When did you start coaching?
I stayed somewhere between like 12 and 15 years ago. I initially started coaching at a alternative high school.
Okay.
And I kind of used that to gauge if I actually wanted to like start coaching, like take it kind of serious, which ended up happening. So I went from that to coaching at the same high school probably for about like 8 or 9 years. And right now I'm going on my third year down in Northwestern.
Cool. So I think you touched on it earlier. You say you coach wrestling and football, correct?
Right.
Okay. Now, how long have you been coaching each?
Definitely football a lot longer than wrestling. So I say a total about 6 years with wrestling.
Okay. All right. Cool. What do you like most about coaching?
The development. And when I say development, right, it's kind of like a two-part answer. Definitely for the development of that athlete, but probably more important than that, you want to create a better student and you want to create a better individual for when they leave.
All right.
When they leave from your coaching, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. All right. So then I'm going to ask this. What are some of, just thinking back over your years of coaching now, what are some of your greatest memories and accomplishments? You know, I don't know what playoffs or even champions you've coached, but just overall, what are some of your greatest memories or accomplishments since you've been coaching?
Greatest memories, man. Wow. Okay, so I say I'll start with the first one. My first year actually coaching at Philip Berry High School in Charlotte, North Carolina, went to the playoffs my first year coaching there. All right, okay. So that was a big standout. But honestly, man, you know, I have to say every year, because every year when you graduate your seniors and all of your seniors go to school, where they go to college, whether they're playing football or not, those probably the best moments.
Wow, that's good. And so, speaking of football, what are some of the positions you've coached over the years? Has it been the same position, or have you coached various positions?
Oh man, I've coached for football. I've coached everything except offensive line and defensive line.
Okay,
like I've coached every skill position on both sides of the ball. I've coached.
Okay, all right. How do you advise student athletes to balance their academics and athletics?
The best advice I give kids is, and it's a constant and it's an everyday reminder. There's a reason why sports come after school.
Okay.
There's a reason why sports come after school. I don't care if you have to practice. You might practice in the morning before school, or you might work out or something, you know, before school. But the gist is, there's a reason why sports come after school. Because if you can't get it done in the classroom, you won't have sports. All right. So it's definitely getting getting your academics across.
That's cool. And I've never heard anyone kind of lay it out that way, but that's good. So you being a high school coach, what advice, you know, if you had the opportunity to speak to some young athletes prior to high school, what advice would you give to a middle school student preparing for high school, from a high school standpoint, as well as athletics, whether, since your experiences in wrestling and football, what would be some advice that you would give a middle schooler preparing to go to that next level?
Organization, meaning if you're organized going into high school, especially your freshman year. All right, so because right now, the way things are, your freshman year is the most important year for high school because that sets the tone for everything. And a lot of these colleges, these recruiters, they'll go back, they'll look at that senior's grade average, but they're gonna go right back to that freshman year, right? So organization, again, you got to stress academics. And when we get these incoming freshmen, the big thing that I try to tell them, I'm like, listen, man, there are two type of athletes for high school athletes, and it doesn't matter the sport, right? That first high school athlete you have, this is a kid that shows you flashes of being good, or with a little more work and effort, this is where they could be. But that's just it. That kid don't want to put in the work, don't want to put in the effort. So at some point in time, they hit their ceiling. Then you have the second high school athlete who is a good athlete, work hard, gives you the effort. And every time I step out there for whatever sport it is that I do, I'm going to show you exactly why I'm this good. You know what I'm saying? Which good. Comes down to, honestly, like confidence and wanting to do the extra that comes with being, a student athlete.
That's good. That's good. That's good information. So thus far, y'all have heard me ask him several questions about coaching, but he has the knowledge and the wisdom of coaching because of his experience even playing the game. I'll say now my connection to Mr. Banks is that as a young buck, probably 7, 8 years old,
yeah,
he played for my brother who was a coach back in the day, and I was just simply a water boy. So at that age, it was somebody that I looked up to as I watched him do his thing, even in midget football league. Anybody that get to watch this, know anything about Penfield, that was the league back in Patterson in New Jersey. And so Fred was somebody definitely I looked up to watching him. Of course, being in the elementary school, I probably didn't experience much of his high school career, but this gentleman has the experience and advice to give you because he didn't just go from growing up to being a coach. He went through playing it himself. So y'all know we always take a minute to take a commercial break. We're going to break for a commercial. However, when we come back, we will then talk to Mr. Banks a little bit about his life and playing the sport from elementary to high school. We'll even find out what he did on that next level after high school. We'll be back after this break. So welcome back from that commercial break. Again, this is Antoine Rogers. We're Out and Up. Again, where we encourage young people to achieve their very best outside of the game. Again, we're back with the second half of the show with our guest this week, Mr. Fred Branks, who explained to you that he's a coach currently. However, he has the experience and the knowledge of the game because, again, I told you, my connection to him was growing up and watching him play even on the midget league level in Patterson, New Jersey. So now we're going to get a little more into him and his experience growing and coming up through the ranks as an athlete himself. But the first thing, since we know there's a connection between, playing the game and then coaching, I'm going to ask Fred, what are the biggest differences between being an athlete and now coaching?
Being an athlete or being able to play football was just simple. Go out, do what you do, always play to win. Being a coach, though, you definitely have to know the personality of the kids that you're coaching.
Got you.
I think what took me so long to start coaching was I had to make sure that when I'm talking to these kids, it's not always about what I did.
Got you.
So you for me, it was trying to get out of that mode of for what I did. This is what I did. This is what I did. Compared to this is what you should be doing.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of funny you asked that question because when I started working with guys who are just coming out or just got finished playing college ball, maybe even some guys who just got finished playing pro football, excuse me. Mm-hmm. And, you always end up having to pull these guys to the side and say, listen, man, right now, it's not about what you did or, what you would do, whatever. You got to make sure these kids understand the right thing to do, just period.
Gotcha.
So I definitely believe that is the difference. As a player, you really focused on yourself and the team as far as a winning aspect, but as a coach, you're focused on the team you're winning, but you definitely have to understand the individuals that you coach.
That's good.
Relationship.
That's good. That's good. So let's get into you being an athlete. What organized sports did you play in your youth between elementary and high school?
All right, so definitely the Penfield Patterson, the midget football, definitely that started everything.
Gotcha.
So from there to Eastside High School, which again was, I'll say that's when it was hard, but football was definitely fun then.
Right.
A lot of fun because you was just around. You was playing. Actually, you got to play all of those years with your friends.
Wow, that's good.
Okay, so now me playing football after high school gets a little bit funny, so I'm gonna go into that story. Right?
All right.
So, coming out of high school, I got recruited for football, but honestly, I got recruited more for wrestling than football.
All right.
But back then, remember, that's when they had the Proposition 48, where you had to sit out your first year, but you also had to pay for it.
Right.
So at that point in time, I kind of was done with playing football, sports period. Long story short, I ended up going into the military, the Army.
Okay.
So fast forward, I go to my duty station. I'm stationed in upstate New York, Fort Drum. So man, it's kind of crazy. So one day I'm going to breakfast. I'm walking to breakfast. And this lieutenant stops me. And this guy says, man, I know you. I know you from somewhere. I says, nah, you don't. 2 weeks later, right, this same guy says, man, I know where I remember you from that. Dude says, I used to see your picture in the paper all of the time for sports. He says, you're from New Jersey, Patterson, Eastside, and everything. So we're talking. Boom.
Wow.
Again, yeah, we're going to fast forward. This dude says, man, I have a friend of mine that coaches the post football team. He says, if you go out there, he says, I promise you, you only have to try out. Just go out there. I go out there. I make the post team. Man, I probably played 3 or 4 games. And I got sent down to Fort Benning to play for the All-Army team.
Wow.
While I'm at Fort Benning playing for the All-Army team, we played this, I guess back, you could say semi-pro team out of Syracuse.
Okay.
Syracuse Express they were like ranked number 3 in the nation. This was one of the few semi-pro teams that was sending guys to the league. Again, long story short, man, first half, I think I scored like 3 or 4 touchdowns. So me, I'm arrogant. I'm like, I'm taking off my shoulder pads. I'm done. This is not fun. So my coach comes to me, says, hey man, what do you know about Paul Pasqualoni? I said, yo, that's the head coach from Syracuse. He says, hey, this dude wants to take another look at you. Man, I go out there, do my thing. We sit down, we talk, we work things out. And it was kind of funny, man, because at this time, a really good friend of mine, Ricardo McDonald, was playing at the University of Pitt.
Wow, that's Patterson history for those that don't know it.
Right. So I hit Rico. I says, hey man, I'm gonna be playing against you. I definitely believe I'm gonna be playing against you. I says, hey, as soon as I get released from the Army, I says, yo, I got an offer from Syracuse. So he's like, man, so long story short, that was how I ended up playing college football through the military.
That's
and awesome. Man, I promise you, I tell my kids this all the time. I tell them I said, listen, man, this is the one story that I'm going to tell you about myself. And I'm not telling you this to like pat myself on the back. I'm telling you this because sometimes the road or the path that you pick for yourself, you're going to hit a detour. Right. But you can still get to where you want to be.
That's good. That's good.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yo, I'm the living proof. Because when I went in the military, there was no way I thought that I would be playing college football.
Wow. Wow, that's good right there.
Yeah,
and I think that helps and that speaks to a lot of people that instantly when, like you said, it doesn't quite go the way that you planned it, that you throw it all in, you quit on life, you quit on the dream itself, and just knowing that if you continue and you were simply just focusing on preparing yourself and doing what you need to do in the military, and that opportunity still opened up for you.
Yep.
And that's good.
Yep.
That's good. That's good, man. I thank you for that story. That's history that I'll be honest and say I didn't even know. As you was talking, I wanted to say we may have went right through it, but for those that don't know you, Fred, like what position did you play in high school and even in college? I heard you talk about the touchdowns, but let them know what position you played.
Yeah, in high school, I played, I played DB, linebacker, little quarterback, running back. Military in college level, I was definitely a running back, and I ended up lining up in the slot a little bit.
What were some of your high school memories being at Eastside?
My freshman year. I was the only freshman on the varsity kickoff, right? Playing against Passaic High School, Craig Hayward.
Ironhead.
So listen, man. So, hey, and look, and this story is funny because we had this same run-in when I was at Syracuse, and he was in his senior year at Pitt. All right, same scenario. So, all right, so I'm a freshman on the kickoff. Man, we kicked the ball off, and I'm going down. And I'm watching this ball drop, and I'm like, "Oh, it's on my side." Wait a minute, this dude is coming my way. So, man, my freshman year, I probably was about maybe like 120, 125 pounds. So, I gets the ball, man, dude is coming my way. I'm like, man, if I fall down, if I run out of the way, I'll never play again. So I'm gonna tell you what I did. The dude was coming. I kind of picked that outside shoulder and I just jumped on his back. And I just I went for the ride about 5 yards.
Wow.
And waited for the help to get there, right? But now, fast forward to Syracuse. I'm on the kickoff.
Right.
This dude is back deep. This time, I made the tackle, right? But when we're getting up, I says, yo, man, we got to stop meeting like this. He said, what you talking about? I says, dude, I was a freshman, Patterson Eastside. You were back on return for Passaic High School, and I jumped on your back. He started laughing. He says, man, I remember that. Like, who was this little dude that jumped off my back? So, you know what I'm saying? Like,
wow.
definitely a good memory. Man, honestly, Eastside football was like all good memories, man.
Gotcha.
All good memories.
I understand. Like at Eastside, you can't really pinpoint one specific moment. You know, it's just you lead it with a lot of pride from the school that you came from. People that don't know the stories and just see it from a movie, they only get a piece of what we experience on a daily basis, whether on the field, in the classrooms, or whatever. And so I know the same love I have for it, you have for it. Anybody that's gone to East Side, you had that love. So I understand that was a tough question because just probably memories.
You know me and you because of your brother.
Right.
Like I tell people this all the time. I says, yo, and it's very rare. Little league or midget league, orange and blue.
Right.
Eastside High School, orange and blue.
Right.
I ended up at Syracuse, orange and blue. I'm like, yo, there are not a lot of people who play sports that can say like I wore the same colors, literally my whole athletic career,
all the way through. Wow,
all the way through.
Wow, you truly was orange and blue.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So at some point, we get to the end of your career on the college level. I'll go back because, again, as we talk to many kids who don't grow up, especially when you come from certain cities, an urban city or something, with that aspiration. I know this is an easy question to ask. At what point do you believe you had that feeling of that aspiration? Man, I want to go to the highest level possible. Or did you have that feeling, hey, I'm going to be a pro one day?
Yo, honestly, ever since I got to play football. Okay, so let me go back to my first year playing youth football, because honestly, I started off being the water boy because I was too small.
Got you.
All right, so I ended up getting a uniform playing halfway through that season. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, right at that time, I was like, yo, like I definitely really was saying, yo, this is where I want to be a football player. Or I knew at that point in time, I definitely knew I wanted something to do with football, you know what I'm saying, being in my life. And, you know, at that age, you definitely go about it as far as being a player.
Got you. So I'm going to ask this even as we kind of shape up just that experience in college. And I have a few more questions just to help prepare some young people that's going to the next level. At what point, and I think this is an important question for somebody that played on a high level at a D1 school like Syracuse, you're now coaching and so impacting a bunch of young people's life. I will ask you, what was it like when you got to a point, like at what stage do you get to the point and you say, you know what? I'm done on the field, like, you know, and I don't even know what your transition was before going into coaching, but what was it or how did you handle that transition of understanding that's it? I'm never going to run the ball again.
It was, you know, it came down to the knee injuries. Right. You know what I'm saying? But when it got to me not being able to like physically like line up and play anymore, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Stepping away from the game for me wasn't as hard as it was for a lot of other guys that I know, because of the simple fact that every year me playing, even in high school, well, you know, you're good, but you're not gonna be able to play. You're not big enough to play at the next level. Just because I would always hear that, oh, you're not gonna be able to play at this level, at that level, at this level. Once the injury and it came to the point where, you know, like honestly, you got to step away from it. You get upset and you go through things, but at the end of the day, I was like, yo, well, there's a million other guys that would have killed to even been in the position that I was in.
Right. Right.
So, at the end of the day, I definitely, according to other people, exceeded my expectations, but because it was always because of your size, you're not going to, you won't be able to play at this level. Right. But I also believe that I think that's why I got recruited in high school more for wrestling than I did football. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. And I think it's good to even hear your stories on the field. I think it's something good to even, for kids to hear it and even relate it to life outside of the game, and that never what people thought of you when it came to the field, you ever let that dictate what you did on the field. Right. Like, you continue to achieve more than people thought you could achieve. And so even our young people, I encourage them, even outside of the game, don't think that, a game, I think when people put all their hope in a sport, then sometimes you get left empty-handed, where if they'll know that, hey, this ticket could get me to the highest level. However, let me make sure I'm developing myself outside of the game, despite what they say about me, because of what school I came from in Jersey or in South Carolina or North Carolina, wherever, someone may be listening from. If I'll continue to focus on what I need to do, I can surely overcome any opinion somebody have. And you did that on the field and in life itself. And so I think that's awesome, man. Just hearing your story. So I'll say to you, let's kind of help as we get close to wrapping it up. For that young athlete preparing to go to school, what are some things? I know your transition was different, but as you coach high schoolers now, what are some things you give to them in looking for the right school to pick, if they have an option of schools, and in the commitment process, what are some things they should be looking for in a college before they make a decision what school they're going to?
Man, I definitely feel like the number one thing that these young kids or these seniors or juniors or whoever's getting recruited needs to look for when they are considering these schools. Definitely number one. Or I'll say this, right? If you have a recruiter or a coach that's coming to you and all they're doing is talking that sport, this, and we can do this or that or whatever. Me as a coach, I tend to kind of have my kids kind of like, well, don't rush into that decision. Because the one thing that this person has not spoke about is your education.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? On the flip side, if you have that coach or that recruiter saying, listen, we want to offer you, but our academics, this is what our academics offer. You can choose these courses or whatever. Again, I'm like, this is what I would tend to have my athletes lean more towards, because this is preparing you, again, not for you putting all your hopes into this sport.
Gotcha.
For you to play this sport and to give your all. And again, if you can get to the next level after this, that's fine. But the one thing that coach or that recruiter is also assuring you, that you will have an education when you leave our institution.
That's good. That's good right there. So I think that's a good segue into one of our last two questions. But just for a second, just talk to young people about preparing for life outside of sports. So that yourself, like I said, you had a mindset with everything that you had endured through the football process. It was an easier transition for you than most. But we watch pro athletes who go to the highest level and then an injury or being cut, and then they have no identity. They don't know what to do with life. They may have skipped over getting an education while they went through college. What would you say to the young person so that they're prepared and never left feeling like I don't have nothing to live for because I can't play football, can't play basketball, can't play baseball, soccer, or whatever? What would you tell a young athlete in preparing their lives as they even go through high school and college for life outside of the sport? What would you tell that young athlete?
Oh, okay. So you can go pro in a whole lot of other things other than sports.
Gotcha.
Right? You can be a professional at a lot of other different things that has nothing to do with sports.
That's good.
Right? Allow your athletic ability to just pay for your education. Key part there, your athletic ability is paying for your education. The most important part about that.
That's good. That's good information, man. Good information. So I hope those that's either listen via podcast or even watching the video, I just hope you're taking in some good information from somebody that really traveled the road, have a lot of experience on the field as a player as well as a coach. And he's been a great example with what he's doing. And the last question I'm just going to ask him for our young people that seem to get sidetracked along the way. As we end the show, just tell them and leave them with this message. How important is it to have positive people in your circle?
Very, 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 especially now, because the young kids now are not like when we were growing up. And that's not no knock against any of these kids, because I definitely think the biggest difference is now they have a lot more exposure with this social media stuff. Yes, so it's not that they're doing a lot of different things. It's just they have a whole lot more exposure. So with that being said, you definitely need positive people around you, because if you have a positive person around you, a positive person around you is not someone who says, don't do this, that's wrong, or do this, that's right. A positive person around you, a true positive person, is for whatever decision you think you're ready to make, they will always give you the flip side of that decision.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Because obviously that person is like, well, you're thinking this and you got your mind made up on this, but obviously you haven't thought about this, the repercussion, whether it be I really don't want to say good, or whether I say good or bad. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. A negative person is going to let you do whatever it is, because what's the best way? Misery loves company.
Got you. That's a good way to cap it off. That's good information. I've said it on other shows that if you'll stay focused and, like you said, use your ability to take you to the highest level, if you're smart, you can come back and maybe get some of your people away from the situations that they're in. However, if you stay around them and allow them to encourage you more, you may never get to that highest level to be able to help and pull them out of a situation. Or even for many kids, I know that the motivation is pulling your family out of situation. So don't allow being around the negative people to end up being the downfall for you ever being able to change your life or those that you've grown up with or those people that you love. So He just gave us some great information, man. Fred, I thank you for joining us today. The stories that you've given us, I know when people back home see this show, it's going to bring back memories. And it was good speaking to you. Thank you for taking the time out. And again, those that are watching, we appreciate you for watching. Thanks again, Fred, for joining us.
All right, I appreciate you having me.